Hello, and welcome back to the Back to Business podcast. We are your hosts, Sarah, Shia, and Mike. Shia, Mike, how's it going?
Hey
Mike, we made
guys,
the cut.
I was just gonna say, Sarah, thank you so much.
We used to be guests, and now
My
it's
pleasure. I know. I used to be
So,
number one in the spotlight, but now I've got to share the spotlight. I'm not great at it, but here we are.
the next step is adding our names to the Spotify. So like when you search for it, you could type in our names, not just Sarah.
one thing at a time, Mike.
I mean, come on. Give him an inch, he takes a mile. Jeez.
Exactly.
So, Mike, we're in a new location today. You traveling?
I'm back in Michigan to enjoy the what I hope to be is an upcoming beautiful summer. But I'm a little bit out of whack now. My wife mentioned it earlier, and I didn't realize what I was feeling till she put it into words. She's like, I feel like we're gearing into the fall and getting ready for winter because we've been in Florida for so long and it's been summer. So it's good to know that it's going to get warm again and not it's going to get warm again, and not cold.
I mean, from your mouth to God's ears, I
Poor
can
guy.
pray.
Poor guy. I mean, we really feel bad. Yeah,
It's been hard. It's been hard.
suffered with the horrible weather.
You're essentially a snowbird.
Yeah, I actually coined the new term summerbird, where I live in Florida, but I fly to Michigan in the summer versus people who live in Michigan
Cute.
that fly there for the winter.
Cute. Little summer birdie.
Mike's a trailblazer.
Nice.
Leave it to Mike.
I love it. All right. Well, heard it here first. Summer birds. Mike coined it. We'll get a little trademark on that one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Also, I'm really mad. On our last episode, we talked about something and I was going to surprise you guys with something today, but slipped my mind. So next time,
Can you tell us what the surprise would have been?
breadcrumbs. No.
I like
How
that.
fun would that be? We'll see how good your memory is. Anywho, let's get into it. So we got some good topics today. We're gonna run through a couple: misinformation, protests, and social media narratives. I think that's a hot topic that we could cover endlessly, but we'll start off with that today. Dua Lipa sues Samsung for $15 million. Anti-Semitic vandalism in Queens, and Ken Griffin, who I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, tax policy and the future of New York. So I know that was a big buzzworthy article recently. So I definitely want to touch on that and get your opinion. So misinformation and protests in the media. You see a lot of those videos of like kids on college campuses asking people who are protesting, like, hey, what are we protesting today? And so many of them have no idea what they're talking about or, what they're actually there for, what they're congregating for. So there was a recent viral video making rounds online showing protesters being asked these questions and why are they protesting? And there might have been a few that could actually say like what they were there for. So it sparked a big debate about misinformation, performative outrage, echo chambers, and whether people are supporting movements without actually fully understanding the issues behind them. What do you guys think about that? Shia, you want to start off? I know you have a lot of opinions here.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's well. First of all, and this is something I guess maybe you and Mike would know better than I would, but I've always wondered: are people paid to be there? Like you keep hearing about paid protesters, but to me, it's like if you have zero knowledge about a topic, right? But you don't see me protesting about like topics that I know nothing about. I just say I don't know because I don't. But like there's so much passion and they're chanting like globalize the intifada. It's like, do you know what globalize the intifada means? Or like yays for Palestine or for Hamas. Like they'll throw you off a building and stone you to death. What you just either like to me it's either A, they're being paid to be there, or it's just like beyond ignorant. I can't reconcile like that. Do you guys think they're being paid? If they are being paid, at least I understand you're doing it as a job. It's like, okay, you don't know what you're doing, but this is your day job. But if they're there because they really believe in the cause, then I'm terrified where our civilization is headed.
I've always wondered that, Shia, too. Do they get paid to be there? Because I see these videos all the time of people getting interviewed and they don't know what they're there for, right? But one thing, and I'll use like the Free Palestine as an example, right? These are big, huge gatherings all over the world, right? Not just in America. I think what happens is people find one thing that they are truly passionate about, right? And me, for example, I'm very passionate about like women and children being killed that shouldn't be killed, right? So I believe that shouldn't happen on either side of that border. But I if I go to a free Palestine rally, right, or a, free Israel rally or whatever it is, to the outsider, I'm going there believing in everything that they believe in, even though I just want that one piece of this problem to be solved, right? So then everyone gets clumped in together. If someone were to ask me about why I'm there, I know how to answer, based on these are the reasons why I'm here. But then when people start to get into the details and the history that I might not necessarily know, I'll be stumped too, right?
Yeah,
So I think also the generalization of lumping everyone into they all have this one belief, um, and that's why they're there is also it's bad, but at the same time, you're right. A lot of them don't know why they're there, and um, spreading truth will definitely help them understand what they should and shouldn't be rallying for.
So I would agree with you if people said, "Well, I'm here for this specific issue, but I don't really know much about the rest of it," right? But what you hear is when people get into it, it's like, "I'm here because of the genocide." It's like there are more kids in Gaza today than there were, pre-October 7th, or Gaza went from 300,000 residents to 2.2 million residents. Like this is a really bad genocide, right? Like the math doesn't translate into that word, or like occupation. It's like you can't occupy a country if you don't control all the borders, right? Egypt control, but people have no idea. So, like, I would agree with you if someone say, what, I'm here because, whichever side they're on, it doesn't even matter. This specific issue is important to me, and I'm here protesting that specific issue. But they're throwing out these terms like from the river to the sea. Which river? What sea? It's like, okay, so just say I'm here for this specific issue. Don't be so passionate about the parts that you know nothing about.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like you see those interviews, and they're asking these kids like, what genocide or white occupiers? Like 67% of Israel is not white. 20% is Arab. Like, and they're just like, oh, really? I have no idea. Like, or the best one I think, the one I saw, they're like, oh, I'm no comment, no comment. I can't comment about that. It's like it almost feels like it's set. It just feels fake. It feels like someone said before, hey, if someone comes to ask you a question, don't answer. Like if I was there, like you're saying, with I'm very passionate about this one topic, I would want to speak about that one topic. Say, I don't really know much about the rest. I'm sure it's complicated, but this one thing's very important to me, and I'm here for that.
hmm hmm
I haven't seen anyone ever give that response in all the videos I've seen ever.
yeah, yeah, and they're so divided too. I saw one where there's two sides of the protest, right? One that feels this way, when the other side that feels the other way, and one guy crossed to go shake the other person's hand. And the other person refused. And they said, I will not shake your hand. F you and F where you're from. And it's like,
Wow.
okay, I mean, that's the division right there. And then two people meet in the middle, and that's supposed to kind of bring it all together, right? And I was so disappointed to see that it ended that way, because I started the video off very optimistic, like, wow, this is gonna be huge. And it wasn't.
I think it's become like the popular thing. Whether they're being paid or not, I have no idea. But I think that without having information to be so passionate about a topic, it's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really about any topic. Like you don't hear me really being very passionate about sports because I'm very limited in my knowledge about sports. So I just say like, I'm really not the right guy for this. I don't know. But going out to something and protesting and being very passionate about a position that you really know nothing about, to me blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like buzzwords that people pull off of social media, and then
Yeah.
that's what they start to throw around. But I guess the question would be like, how do we stop this from happening? Like, how do we stop protesters who don't know what they're actually protesting or what they're standing for with all of these people? My suggestion would be you have like an entrance where you have to give facts about what it is that you're protesting and what side you're on before you
Maybe
can
no one
go
knows.
in and like rally with people. So then we need to have an organization that like is actually providing the service of fact checking and questioning people. And I don't know if that's realistic, but
No, but that's where
you
kind
should
of
have to gain entry.
that's kind of where I agree with what Mike said. Like, I think if you have a specific issue that you are very focused on and something that really matters to you, then stick to, okay, this is what matters to me. This is what I know a lot about. This is what I'm passionate about. Makes sense. It's when you're chanting all these things that you have no idea what you're saying. And then
Yeah.
you see these videos, and I'm like, how are you standing out here protesting something that you know nothing about? Forget which side you're on. Just any side in any debate. If you know nothing about it, when did it become bad to just say I don't know?
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you one quick example, and I don't want to just get too stuck on talking about this the Israel and Palestinian conflict, right? But one of the biggest things I hear is when someone's protesting for free Palestine, and then someone says, "Well, Palestinians never existed. It's not a real thing," and I feel that like personally because we're as a Chaldean, right? You have Assyrians who do the same thing, and they say, well, you're not Chaldean. Chaldeans, is just a made up Chaldeans just a made up name that you guys took on. You're true ethnic Assyrian. So like now you're not only, I guess you're not trying to like dehumanize me, but at the same time, you're telling me what I am and what I believe that I've been my whole life just isn't true. And I'm supposed to just right here and now take your word for it and believe that and just switch everything that I grew up believing. So that's just one of the things when you take away someone's identity, it brings a level of emotion that is very hard to explain. You're taking away their entire, I don't know, like life and what they've known, right? So um I think the emotional kind of part of all this is where, to what Sarah was saying, like kind of like how can we filter out what people believe in? You have to filter the emotions first, because people do feel strongly about certain things, and sometimes they can't put it into words, but like you just know that something feels wrong and you feel like you have to do something about it, right? And then you feel like you're a coward if you don't, and if you just kind of put your head down and just live your day. Which a lot of people are doing, and we ask for those people sometimes to amplify their voices and to be heard. I know Shia, a lot of times I've told him how I felt about things, and he's like, well, why don't you say something about it? I'm like, I don't want to cause problems in my life, in my business. I have kids. I don't want to make them targets. I don't, there's so many different things that I, fear happening, in retaliation from someone that doesn't feel the same way about things as I do.
Right.
I guess the only, I don't want to say counter to that, but I think the thing that kind of runs alongside Mike's point is, with the fact that there's so much misinformation, people are coming into a topic that they're standing up for, not knowing what they're standing, meaning that they're being misinformed, which is why they're so passionate about it, right? For example, you say, did the Palestinians exist, right? Or Palestinian itself, like, oh, it's called Palestine, but it actually is Philistine, right? I mean, I could go into 3,000 years of history here, but I guarantee you the average person who says, Palestinian doesn't know that, right? They don't even know what they're saying when they say Palestinian, right?
Yeah.
So I think the heart of the issue is not whether or not, people are protesting for certain things or people are speaking for certain things. I think the larger, because they should, right? If you're passionate about something, speak about it. The heart of the issue, I think, is that they're being passionate about a topic that they're very misinformed about, right? How many
Mhm.
how many people are aware that 20% of Israel is Muslim?
Yeah. Yeah. Not many. Not
Very few.
many.
So
Every time I show
then
someone, they're blown away. They don't believe it.
I feel like there's so much that people don't know, because there's so many things that just don't make the news and people aren't talking about, and they choose like very specific topics to, be buzzworthy and whatnot. But how can people then be better informed before engaging in activism or political debates? Like, do you
I
have,
I've said
I
this.
don't know.
No, I said this on prior podcasts. I'm going to say it again. I think you can't believe anything you see. I really believe unless you see something in person or unless you have firsthand knowledge, I would not form an opinion. I just, there's so much misinformation, and I'll go back to genocide, apartheid, white occupier, like all these kind of buzzwords that are very convenient to latch onto. And then to
Yeah.
Mike's point, it's like, well, hey, there, from what I'm hearing, there's all these women and kids dying. I want to stand up for what's right. I don't want to be on the sidelines, right?
Mhm.
But is that actually happening? Is it not actually happening? What, and people are like, oh, you're crazy, it's happening, or you're crazy, it's not happening. Both, right? Everyone's
Right.
saying, unless you know definitively, right? Why am I standing? I mean, and that's my biggest concern. My biggest concern is people are so passionate about topics, and we're hooked on this one, which is fine, but it's really kind of applies to a lot of different scenarios. People are so passionate about topics that they don't know anything about, right? Look at like the Epstein files. Again, both sides of the argument, right? If people, oh, it was a giant ring and it was a huge conspiracy, and people was like, no, it was just one bad guy, right? Who like, and I don't know. And the answer is, I have no idea. I'm not privy to all the details. I just don't know. So I don't have a passionate position. I think it's a horrific event and a horrific individual, and anyone who's involved in it is terrible. And that's kind of like where my knowledge ends on whether or not it was this giant conspiracy or intelligence agency. And just like people are so passionate about topics that they have no knowledge about. And I guess to me, it's how do you change that, right? So, and my simple answer is, if I give people advice all the time, don't believe anything you see. I think we referenced it in another podcast.
Are you telling me that as a regular Jewish person, you don't know what was going on Epstein's Island?
Exactly, right. That's like the whole the Jews, right? Like, what does that even mean? The Jews can't even agree on what a Jew is.
I wanted to add in here. So we're talking about just activism and protesting and things like that. When I was in Nigeria last November, I spent a lot of time meeting locals and talking to people, whether it was on the streets or wherever it was.
So
We had a,
being friendly, meeting people, I would have never thought that would happen.
so I mentioned to one of the people there, we have a lot of protests in America, a lot of people trying to figure out their genders and things like that, and they're just like taken back, and they stop. And I asked them, do you have anything like that here? And they said, we're just trying to survive here. We're trying to find food and work. We don't have time to think about what our gender is. So I think just to add on, a lot of these protests, we have it so good that we really don't know what else to complain about anymore. So we're just finding things now to go and rally and protest
about. It's a fair point.
Yeah, I feel like we need to go back to simpler times. Like, to your point, like we got to focus on making money, feeding ourselves, like keeping our family safe. Like there's too many other things that people are bringing up that, focus on your core values and
but it's terrifying.
drown out the noise.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
That educated students at Ivy League schools were so misinformed that they got so passionate about the topic that they know nothing. And like it blows my mind if any one of them would go, visit Gaza, what would happen to them by the people that they're supporting. Right? The gays for Hamas, that's literally like chickens for KFC or blacks for the KKK.
Yeah.
It's beyond ignorance. Not to say that, again, to your point, there are certain people who have a specific thing that they're very passionate about. But I've never seen in any of the videos those people at the protest. Like I was actually at one of the protests the other day. I got stuck in one, and I'm asking people questions myself. Not one of them can answer a question. Not one. Why are you here? Free Palestine.
Yeah.
From what? From no one knows.
Yeah.
Do you know the difference between Hamas and Fatah? Do you know that they can't talk to each other? Do you know like Palestinian Authority? Hamas? Like you start getting into details or settlement. It's like, the settlement expansion. It's like where? What? What's that? What's the name of the settlement? What is it like? Zero actual detail on what they're so passionate about. And that to me is a big concern. The ability to manipulate people is terrifying.
Yeah.
I think we need to get you a microphone and send you to college campuses because I think you would do a good job there.
I like Shia alive. Let's keep him away from that.
All right, fair.
Okay.
I would love to, seriously. And honestly, like I think the overarching issue is it became a negative to say I don't know. And I don't there are a lot, actually Mike, the first business deal that Mike and I did together was a business that I knew nothing about. My first phone call was to Mike. I said, hey, this is your expertise, or one of your cousins. And can you help me with this? Or do you know someone? And he said, well, yeah, I do have a cousin and another cousin who would know this. And when did that become a bad thing, right? When I don't know much about this. And then Mike's had deals where he's been involved. He'll call me and say, hey, can you handle this for me? Because this is your expertise.
Yeah.
But neither of us are passionate about things that we don't know anything about. We defer to each other's expertise. And that's where younger people, or not even younger, just people who are watching videos online and coming to these drastic conclusions about something 6,000 miles away that they know nothing about is beyond ignorant.
I think to wrap this section up, I think a good way to encompass this topic is social media is the demise of our society.
Yes.
It really does more harm than good most of the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree.
But I want to move along, make sure we get to all of our talking points today. So the next topic, Dua Lipa, and I'm really excited about this one because, Mike, I just was able to tell Shia who Dua Lipa is by playing one of his songs for one of her songs for him. So
Yep.
Dua Lipa sues Samsung for $15 million. So this is an interesting one because she claimed that the company used her image without permission to help market televisions. So Samsung on the other side says that the image came from a third-party partner that claimed it had the rights to use it. So a little he said, she said situation. But in the world that we live in today, with branding and influencer marketing and digital content and all of that driving this major industry, who's ultimately responsible when copyrighted images or licensing content are used inappropriately?
Yeah.
Shia, Mike, who wants to
So,
start this one off?
so to start off, Dua Lipa is one of my favorite artists. Actually, funny enough,
Oh,
yeah. Only like for a few reasons besides her good music. My wife and I were in Vegas, and there was a show that day at the hotel we were staying at, and it was her. So we ended up going, had a great time, and like the songs are so catchy, right? And also as an ethnic person, right? I appreciate whenever someone has like kind of more of a ethnic background. She's Albanian and she lives in the UK, so and
ooh, I did not know
she
this.
yeah, she grew her following and her fame and all that stuff. And it's always
Yeah,
something to look up to, especially when kind of someone's story and how it got there. Shia has a lot of stories from his family coming over from a different part of the world. So it's always something that you appreciate more, kind of having lived in it. They're not all the same stories. But back to we were talking about feelings earlier, you still kind of know how that upbringing was. So I feel kind of like I could relate. Um, but with that being said, so it's similar to like in my business, we have to run background checks and we have to use a third party to run these background checks. And they give us the green light if we can or can't hire this person. I had a situation one time where the one person that I got a green light on, I wasn't supposed to hire. And actually I got penalized for it. So, Samsung can't just say, oh, well, we thought that we were good to go. I don't think it's that simple. But also, I mean, they've got to do a better job of vetting their contractors and doing kind of their due diligence. You're a huge company. There's no excuse for that, especially with a celebrity like
for
Dua
sure.
Lipa. So
And at least
I
she has the wherewithal to like sue, whereas a small creator or someone whose image was also stolen or, used without permission, he
yeah,
said, she said, but they
yeah.
don't have the wherewithal to fight back at Samsung. So at least Dua Lipa can.
Yeah, yeah. Like some of those artists, when your TV goes into like screensaver mode and you see these beautiful pictures of bridges and mountains and whatever it is, you're right. Those people might never really have that platform to say, "Hey, this is not yours. What are you doing?"
Yeah,
Um, I think this is going to change things up big time. But I mean, also looking at the way I see it is all of these social media influencers right now, they're getting popularity and a huge following overnight. So you know, this is like probably going to become a bigger problem than it is now, because we're so used to like the Hollywood type celebrities, but the takeover right now is in social media personalities. So how is this being managed? Are they prepared to kind of deal with this kind of I guess situation or whatever? But I think AI is going to make it even messier, especially now. I can ask AI to, hey, make a picture with me and Dua Lipa, on stage jamming out, and it'll come up with one in 5 seconds, and I can
would
post
you?
that.
I would love that.
So this is going to be bigger on a smaller level
Yeah,
than I think this is just the beginning of these kind of issues.
So I think it's a little bit of a deeper topic, right? I think it really is. It's almost like, if you're in Tesla self-driving mode and your hands
Mhm.
are in the wheel, are you considered a reckless driver if you're not speeding? Right? I think legislation is behind technology, and I think to Mike's point, you have all these influencers, and the argument comes down to what is public domain versus private, right? So if I post a picture of myself smoking a cigar on the roof and someone shares that, right? And then the cigar brand tweets it out or whatever and says, oh, hey, this guy likes our cigars, right? Can they do that if I made that picture public with their brand? Or is that them using my image and likeness, right, to benefit their brand and they can't use it without my permission, right?
Yeah.
So it really is. I think it's a much more complex topic than, just, hey, did you do a background check or did you not do a background check? Because even if you did a background check or you didn't do a background check, if someone else made that information public and it's in the public domain, do I now have a right to use it? Right? If you didn't copyright or you didn't trademark or, whether it's an image or whether it's a brand, whatever it is, where's that line? And I don't think there's any clear cut case law on this issue yet. Right? I think my cigar example is a very good one because I like certain brands of cigars. I don't post pictures of myself smoking them, but a lot of people do. And if I make that public, can the cigar brand then use it to benefit them? I don't know the answer. And should they be able to use it? I could really hear arguments both ways of you can't benefit from my image or likeness, or because I made your brand public with my likeness, it's now public domain. And if I made it public for anyone to see, you can use that. So I think it's, I think that it's going to be a very, very, very interesting argument. I think issues like this are going to end up in the Supreme Court. I really do. I don't think there's any case law that people can refer to say this is the right answer. I think brands tread very, very carefully, and people have to tread carefully. If you're an artist and you put something out there, is it public? It's a really good question that I don't know the answer to, and I'm not sure. It's going to be years before there's a black and white answer to this question.
Oh yeah, and even then it won't be.
Yeah.
It's a big gray area, but I feel like, to Mike's point, for Samsung to not have done, and I don't want to speak on this too much because I didn't read everything about it, but to not have done enough due diligence on the third party that presented the photo to them, and you're going to put someone, I mean, everybody knows Dua Lipa when they see her. It's not some random person. You pray they don't see it or something like that. Really got to make sure you're going through and verifying everything before putting something to print or putting something out there.
Whether it's a famous person or someone not famous, should they be treated differently?
Well, no, but I mean, it's so obvious when you put something out, like people will recognize Dua Lipa in a second. Whereas if it's me or you, it might take a while for people to notify you, hey, Samsung's using your image, or whatever cigar brand is using your image. That's my only point there. I don't think that there should be different treatment, but
I guess my question is, should they be able to, and I don't know this specific situation, whether or not they used the image that was already public or they took her private image. So obviously, I completely agree with the two of you. You have to do a better. You should have better information, like the contact.
For sure.
Is it a woman or a man? I don't even know if it's singular.
You figure it out.
We got to put a Dua Lipa song and like a little clip in here, so you can be familiar.
We've contacted the artist and said, "Hey, do you agree we can use this?" Right. So that part is that's on Samsung, in my opinion. But I think the larger question is, did Samsung have a right to use it because there's all this public, information about Dua Lipa? I think that's the deeper question that's going to have to be answered.
Yeah.
There was a time, and this isn't about this as much, but it's close enough. When I used to own a hookah lounge back, 14 years ago. Very, very cool, very fun.
Before the cell phone store or after?
I never owned a cell phone store, for the record. I worked at one.
Okay.
But there was a big Floyd Mayweather fight. Okay, I forgot who he was fighting. I think Canelo. This was in his prime. It was like 2012, 2013. And we wanted to get people in the door, right? We need a reason to bring people in. So I was making Instagram posts and I had the fight, a picture of the fight, Floyd Mayweather and Canelo kind of holding boxing gloves at each other, and just said, hey, come on to the hookah lounge for this event. We had a very out of character customer that day. So one who wasn't Chaldean or Middle Eastern descent. And I remember looking and the inner racist in me, I was like, man, what's this random white guy doing here? But he came in, ordered a hookah, whatever, sat down. A few weeks later, we get a letter from some lawyer saying, hey, we're suing you for promoting this fight to get business. Because of some reason. I guess I was supposed to buy buy a certain type of TV package in order to play it on all the TVs. But I thought it was funny because they were arguing that I was using Floyd Mayweather's likeness. It was his promotional company that I was using his likeness to get business. But we didn't get in any kind of trouble because we didn't charge like a fee to get in or jack up our prices because of that. We just simply wanted people to walk into our doors. So this is going back to 2012, 2013. But another thing I wanted to mention is that Shia and I talked about kind of bringing celebrities on board with Tents of Two Brothers, and kind of sharing our vision for them, and if these people see our message and what we're trying to do, and how it's making the world a better place, we feel like we can get them all on board, and help amplify our message, in most cases overnight. But that's another thing about this whole situation is how can we get that right celebrity to kind of help us to get this message out, because it's at such a small level right now. It's so grassroots, but we could do so much more good if it's amplified.
Yeah, we're spending a lot of time focused on that now. But
Yeah.
to Mike's point, and just circling back, how celebrity issue ties to the topic. What would be interesting is, and I was at an Athletes for Israel event the other night, and there were a bunch of athletes there. And one of the things that we were talking about was, they're there and they're posing, with Athletes for Israel, and which is, obviously they stand up for what they believe is right, and I respect that. But the question is, if they now, those images get shared outside of the room they were in, right? How does it affect them? And are they okay with that? And then can you then use that? Can the people who are, maybe against their position on the Israeli Palestinian conflict, can they then, can they lose a contract because of their position, right? So, and it's such an interesting question, because let's just say a picture of one of the athletes gets put out in public and is shared, right? If a company then takes that and says, well, this is why we're terminating a contract with you, or this is why we're signing you to a contract, right? It can go either way. What happened? And where do you draw the line between this image and likeness, or whatever I was participating in, belongs to me personally, or can it be used in the public domain for other people's marketing activities, right? So for example, can the Israeli government say, hey, so-and-so athlete supports our position? Clearly, he's standing up with Athletes for Israel, right? Which,
Right.
okay, very respectably took a position. A lot of people kind of, hedge and don't take a position because they're scared one way or the other. But can that be used? Can his likeness be used without his consent now that he put himself in that position? I don't know. And it's a fascinating topic to me. It really is.
Tough.
It's fascinating. I don't know that anyone knows the answer.
I definitely don't know the answer, but I would say that if you're going to go to an event, like any event that you're representing yourself and whatever the event is for, and it's, maybe sending out a strong message to people, like you would think of the ramifications. Okay, if a picture got shared and they said, I'm here, like I'm comfortable with whatever comes of that, whether good or bad, just taking all of that into consideration prior to engaging in whatever organization.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would hope.
Yeah, I don't know where you draw that line, right? So, like now with AI, can someone switch it? Say this athlete went to an Athletes for Israel event. Can someone just switch the word Israel to Palestine and share that? And now it's the Athletes for Palestine event. Then he sues the guy who changed the image, or you sue the guy who reshared the image, or the other person who reshared the image. Like, and that gets back to the topic where we started of, how much of a background check do you need to do before you're no longer held liable? To Mike's example with the employee, a long time ago, I had a tax preparation company. Mike will probably insert something now about the Drew and the accountant, because I went after him on the hookah lounge and the cell phone store. No, fast forward middle. You're not going to speak. Okay, too easy. Save it for later. All right.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the cousins to come back to get me. So just know it's on my radar. But anyway, I had a tax preparation company, and people would come in and provide us information, and the IRS came after us saying, hey, you didn't do enough to verify that what they're telling you was correct, and you filed their returns. And, there's a really big legal argument as to at what point do I have to trust what you're telling me versus I need to verify, right, what I've been told before I submit it. And it's a fairly gray area, right? I don't think it's black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a gray area, but again, a topic I feel like we could go on and on about. So
Good topic. So that's
Switching, yeah, for sure. Switching to our next topic, which pains me that this happens, but anti-Semitic vandalism in Queens. So swastikas were discovered in parks across Queens this past week, adding to a growing number of anti-Semitic incidents happening across New York City and sadly around the world. NYPD says that swastikas were discovered in Highland Park and Forest Park, both in Queens on Mother's Day. And the incidents follow recent anti-Semitic acts across the borough, including vandalism targeting synagogues and homes. We've had that type of activity here locally, very close to home, not too long ago, too. So, community leaders and public officials have condemned the attacks and called for stronger action against hate crimes. But I guess the question is like, why are we seeing such a rise in anti Semitism and it becoming just more normalized and visible in public spaces? Shall let you take this one.
Yeah, this one is obviously a sensitive topic. My grandfather's a
Yeah.
Holocaust survivor, and he'll tell you that Germany in 1935, this is exactly what was happening. Exactly what it was. I have a lot of people I know who are Orthodox, and they're terrified to walk outside with the yarmulke on their head next to them. And that's just, I don't care what your position is on anything. There's absolutely no justification. And the amount of ignorance. The fact is that no one has a clue who's Jewish and who's not, unless they're easily identifiable. And the ironic part is many of the Orthodox Jews are easily identifiable, are not even the ones who support Israel. So if your gripe is against the state of Israel, right, you should be knowledgeable enough to know that the people you're targeting, many of them have no allegiance to the actual state of Israel because they believe in the Messiah and they believe there shouldn't be a state until the Messiah comes. So the level of ignorance is mind blowing, which goes back to that misinformation topic one. But in addition to that, whether they have a position on Israel, they don't have a position on Israel, people try to say, well, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm just anti. And clearly, right, the whole I'm just anti-Israel thing has led to this huge rise in anti-Semitic. So even if there is someone who says, no, I'm just opposed to the government and the government of Israel, and they genuinely mean that, right? I'm not saying they don't, and that's their position. Everyone should be aware that what happens is the fallout from that position is a rise in anti-Semitism. Obviously, we can go through, I think there's 1,600 and something attacks against Jews that were reported. There's thousands more that are not reported. The fact is today that I know people who are terrified to walk outside. I think there was a non-Jewish guy who did an experiment, went on the subway in New York. There's a video going around, but he put a yarmulke on just to see what it was like. And you put a GoPro or some camera, hidden camera, and he was harassed the whole entire day, just walking around town. And it's like, now I finally see what this are referring to. It's terrifying. I know kids' schools now. I was with a guy yesterday in New York. He told me that his son now has to go through 3 layers of security to go into school at 8 years old. And each one, it's like a prison where you have like one door closes, another door opens, another door opens for 8-year-old kid. And what's crazy is in the public school system in America, generally, you're afraid of student shooters. So you're afraid of a gun getting into the school and a student. In the Jewish schools in America today, you're scared of an adult shooting the children. Obviously, we all know what happened here at Temple Israel with the guy who drove his school into an early childhood center. But what most people might not know is there were millions of comments supporting the guy who drove the car into early childhood center. And the answer to the problem is, again, I think it comes back to topic one. People are misinformed. They're being misled. They're misinformed. There's a campaign out, that's clearly a paid-for campaign to say, hey, if you have a problem, blame the Jews, which I don't even know what that means. I don't think anyone. I think if you ask people, similar to like the people at the rallies, what does that mean? You'll never get a direct answer because it doesn't mean anything. It's not a definable term. It literally is not definable. It's horrifying and terrifying. And I wish I had a perfect answer. I think topic one, if people like Mike, like me, like you, Sarah, if we can do more to spread the word via organizations like 10 to 2 Brothers, I think we have a chance of solving this problem, because I hope that it's not actual hate and it's just misinformation. But anti-Semitism is a 3,000-year-old problem, so I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Yeah. Hate is not even like where this all like starts. It's when you get the whole world or even a small sub of people comfortable in like dehumanizing one particular set of people, and then you kind of rallies the troops in a sense. One thing that I've heard before is social media has put everyone, whether they belong on the regular bus or on the short bus, they've put them all on the same bus and gave them all a voice. So I think that that's kind of what's making it worse. But then to your example earlier, in 1935 Germany, there was no social media back then. So there's definitely ways for people to get this across, and not to take away from this whole situation, but just kind of to tell you where I can relate with this, and where I have a lot of sympathy or empathy, whichever one is the right one in this case. When ISIS started attacking the Christian villages in northern Iraq, and even when they started in Baghdad, they were using red paint to go and paint the letter N in Arabic on those doors, and that stood for Nazarene, which means that a Christian lives here. And this is how they were going to fund their big caliphate that they were building, is by charging I think it's called a jizya or a jizwa, where they charge you tax to be non-Muslim, or you convert, right, or we kill you. And we're blessed and we're so lucky that in America attacks like this can happen, but they can get nipped in the bud pretty fast. I mean, not to say that things can happen without casualties, but everyone here is so much more protected, whereas over there was no one to protect these Christians, and the slaughtering happened so fast and at such a big scale because no one interfered or tried to stop it. Whereas here, I feel like, even though these attacks are really bad, I feel like at least we can stop it, and they become one-off situations instead of an entire group of people that is just out there to cause harm and terror. But I think it's horrible that this is happening over there. I don't think anyone should be targeted because of their religion. I think that's so silly. And especially you're targeting a religion because your thoughts come from a place that you don't believe in, where it happens to be one of the only secular countries in the world where you're allowed to be any religion in there. I think it's just funny to me because the history of what happens in that region to other religions that aren't the one over there, hasn't really fared out well, for those minorities. So it is interesting, and goes back to the first thing we were talking about in the podcast is people's misinformation,
Information.
and knowing how to like tug on people's emotions and how to piss them off in the wrong way. And back to Tents of Two Brothers, this is why we want to strengthen truth, because once you know the truth, okay, you're so much more empowered to make your own decision. These people that are following and doing these things don't think they're sheep. They think they're leaders, but they don't know that they have been taken advantage of, and that their thoughts have been twisted where they think that they're their own, but really they're just like following one puppet master's control of, hey, this is how you should feel about the Jews or the Arabs or the Christians or whatever it is. But I think this is terrible, and it creates fear in these communities. Tells families, kids, like, hey, you're not safe where you live, and no one wants to live like that.
Yeah, Mike, just to add to Mike's
Amen.
point, a couple of things. First off, the irony is just mind-numbing, because the only country in the Middle East where you can actually practice the faith freely, any religion, is Islam. That's just a fact. I don't care. Like, people can say whatever they want, but reality, there is only one country where you can practice, whether that's Islam, Christianity, Judaism, whatever religion you want. You can be an atheist. It's the only place that you can do that in the Middle East. So let's start there. So going after the people who you perceive to be are supportive of this, and again, many of them are not even supportive, but that's a separate conversation. So the ignorance in attacking the wrong people, based on their colors, it's just there are so many things wrong with it, but it all comes from the fact that people have no idea what they're standing up for. And Mike's point about the short bus and the long bus, right? I think it's a good point, but my concern is social media has taken, we all had like that one weird kid in the class, or the guy in his mother's bedroom, his mother's basement who like never came out. The problem is social media has taken them all, put them into one. And when you have, 300 million people, maybe 1% of them, right, are people that are, believing this, whatever conspiracy theories out there this week. That's a huge number. So in essence, you took the short bus and you turned it into a city or a village or a town. And you said, okay, all the issues that, are out there are because of this one group, go get them. Every problem you have in your life, your house is expensive, blame them. It's raining tomorrow, blame that. It's like, it became this like catch-all. And if you look at Nazi Germany, again, my grandfather's still alive, he'll tell you. He said they used to watch TV at night. And Hitler didn't come to power in a day. But what he did was he rallied the people around this one issue. All of your problems are because, and people who have issues, right, will rally to, it's not me, it's them. Can't be my fault, it's their fault. And it's such a convenient target because it's easily identifiable. So it's terrifying. I think this is going back to the 10 Two Brothers, and I think it's a really good topics today. Really good topics today. But I think one in 4, 1 in 3, the last one, really tied together. I think that if we can successfully fight misinformation, it will lead to a real reduction in the anti-Semitism. And to Mike's point, today it's anti-Semitism, tomorrow it's racism. It never finishes with the Jews. The next day it's anti-Christian. It starts with the Jews because they're the smallest and easy to identify, but it never finishes there. I mean, the Jews were kicked out of Iraq. 20 years later, Mike's great grandparents were born, right? Like it's a pattern. It's happened over history, and I feel like we are in a position where maybe this time we can stop. I told somebody yesterday at an event, a very small light shines very bright when it's a dark room, and it's on us to be that light.
Amen to that.
We have to be the light. I love it. Also, I have to give a shout out to our awesome producer, Natasha, for our
Natasha.
Shout out Natasha. She does a great job. All right, last topic for today. Yes.
Is she going to edit that out when she goes to edit this so that her name isn't like getting screamed into people's ears?
I think that would be wrong of her.
I think so too.
I just feel like
just putting it out there.
I feel like
yeah. Natasha, don't do that. Okay. Don't let Mike give you any ideas. No, we can't stop her. She'll do what she will, but hopefully everyone gets to hear her shout outs because she deserves them. All right. Last topic for today. Ken Griffin, tax policy and the future of New York. So billionaire investor Ken Griffin is reportedly scaling back New York hiring plans amid growing political pressure surrounding tax the rich proposals and rising concerns over the city's business climate. So I'm pretty sure everybody's heard about this already, but he's got plans to move operations down to Florida, Citadel, which he's the founder of, and then other financial leaders are reconsidering New York expansion plans as well and kind of following in his footsteps with that. So some firms are reportedly increasing investments in states like Florida, Texas, and taking everything out of New York. So if major investors, companies, and high earners begin leaving cities like New York, what happens to the economy, jobs, and the future for those cities? Mike, you want to take this one? Start us off?
So I was hoping that you were gonna ask me to start it off. So I am one of those people that left a taxing state for a no income tax state. And it wasn't an easy decision to make, right? Like you feel so rooted and so at home and you just know what I can drive here without turning navigation on. I can get anywhere I want. And like these are like little things, right? They don't seem important, but they're huge. And it hit me one day that the state of Michigan is just exploiting me and my roots here, okay, and taxing me, 4.25% or whatever it is, right? And then I think in December, they proposed adding a millionaire's tax to add 5% more to anyone who's making over this much money, which has been pulled for now. So they're taking it off the ballot for 2026. But all that means is that they're going to come back in 2027 stronger and try to get more signatures to do that. But the government, and it's my belief that the government should be there for the people. not exploit them because they happen to be rooted there, and your success is my success, right? Like we already do that for the federal government. We accept it. I don't see why I need to do it for the state government. That's just my personal philosophy. A lot of people won't agree with that because then they're going to say, well, what about what the money funds? And what about all the good that it can do? I mean, with all the money that they're already getting now, I feel like there's so much good that they can do that they're not doing. So personally, again, this is a personal feeling on this. I feel like it's better off in my hands than in theirs. And they've proven that over and over and over again. And my least favorite thing to hear, and not even before I was well off and I was able to, be more financially secure. Tax the rich is such a broad, stupid statement because it is doing exactly what we were talking about earlier with these voices that are kind of like the master puppeteer or whatever. They're using that to rally, and it sounds bad saying it, but to rally poor people into believing that tax the rich is going to solve the poor person's problem. And I'm not a tax genius or a strategist or anything by any means, but I mean, it doesn't take that much to realize, like, okay, like you're getting played here. And there's states that are doing it with 0% income tax, and they're doing a great job at it. And then there are states like California that are at like 12 or 13% tax, state income tax, and they're, in my opinion, doing horribly with that. So Ken Griffin, I think, is making a great decision. I think this was during COVID when he made this decision, when he moved Citadel headquarters down to Miami, if I remember, unless I'm thinking of someone else. But the fact that he's even cutting down on hiring in New York is crazy. I didn't know it was that far, but Miami's turning into the next like the money capital of America, or well, the world, right? New York City is still huge. Those buildings are beautiful, and but I can see more and more people moving down. I think Ken Griffin started it off. Um, and there's going to be a mass exodus of these billion-dollar corporations moving down to Miami or Texas or Florida or Texas or any 0% income tax state, because one, it's better for your employees, it's better for you, and it's just better overall. Companies don't have to go and trickle down the tax, and people like us pay more just because we have to cover their state income tax out there. So I think it's good for everyone overall, but that's my 2 cents.
So,
I like
okay,
it.
I think we should do it just maybe for the audience, explain a little bit about how it works, what they mean when they say tax relief. Kind of like, again, back to the misinformation catchphrase. But let's translate that into what happened. And I think you could start with, why do the states with the highest taxes have the largest deficits? So if you're really taxing the rich, give the money to your residents who are not rich, why is your state operating at a deficit? Why are the social services in the states that tax the highest the worst? Why is the homeless problem in California and New York? Why are the roads in Michigan known to be terrible if we're paying taxes to the state of Michigan, right? Meaning, to Mike's point, what are they doing with the money once they leave, right? So I could get around the state that says, you know what? Here's where your dollars are going, and here's why it's very effective. Here's why people who are, not as fortunate as you, here's how they benefit. Okay, I can see that, right? We have a lot of programs to help people, and I would love to fund that. That's the same as, like Mike said, it's better in his hands because Mike's a very charitable guy. So Mike takes the money in his hands and he makes sure it actually gets to people, as opposed to just dumping it into the state where, what does it cost us to educate a kid? It's a lot more in public school than it is in private school, and the education's worse. Why? Right? So I think the underlying issue is, what is happening with the money when it's paid? Now you look at, okay, let's talk about what happens when you say tax the rich. Said rich guy or girl leaves that state. Right? So let's take Ken Griffin, for example, right? He was building a new tower, and Mike, he did originally open in Miami, I think during COVID, because the policies in New York couldn't work. But now Mamdani filmed a video outside of his house.
Yes. Yep.
And he said, basically said, and your point about Miami, they're calling it Wall Street South now.
Okay.
Yes. That's literally have a name for it. But what happens when a guy like him says, I'm moving out? How many jobs are affected? And then again, for people who maybe don't understand the economics of it, let's go through what happens, right? So a guy like Ken Griffin says, I am moving 6,000 of my employees to fill, right? You now have 6,000 less people paying any tax in that state. But more importantly, because let's just say they were in a 0% tax state, and this is what Florida and Texas get it right. All those people go to the dry cleaners, they get their cars fixed, they go out to eat, and they provide, there's so many indirect jobs, right? They're an economy unto themselves. When you have someone wealthy like that, who's paying high wages to his employees, whose employees now have more disposable income to spend on other things, people who are not in the same socioeconomic class, or people who are not as economically well off, right, benefit from. They're able to pull themselves up further. All those construction jobs on the tower that he was going to go, those are union jobs that are well paying. Every one of those people now can pay their mortgage, now can make a car payment, now can go out to eat, can go to the game. And what happens is the falafel stand on the corner, or the hot dog stand on the corner, is able to sell that extra hot dog because the guy has an extra dollar, right? He then spends that extra dollar. So what happens is, by chasing these so-called rich, they paint them as these evil people. And many of them started with nothing, built themselves up, took all the risks in the world to build a very successful business. What you're doing is destroying your own economy. I mean, if you look at a place like San Francisco, that's what happened there, right? It was tax everybody until they leave, and then in turn, your budget shortfall gets larger, which means you're struggling to provide the social services that you need, which in turn means more people leave. And it's a cycle of violence, it's a spiral of death that is extremely challenging to get out of.
Yeah.
That's such a good
You
point.
you can tax wealth, right? But you can't trap it. So you got to get it right before you let these people run away. And yeah, I agree with everything else you said.
Yeah, it's
I think
usually
the craziest part is that most wealthy people that I know would be quite comfortable if we told them, hey, I want you to give X% of your wealth to charity, and here's where it's going, and here's how it's going to benefit X person. The vast majority of them say, oh, no problem, I'll give it. It's when I'm paying it into this black hole and I don't know what happens next, and I'm not getting any bang for that buck. Why am I doing that if I can go somewhere else and not do it?
Yep.
Yeah. And why are you working so hard just so that so much of your paycheck is going towards who knows where, because there's such a lack of transparency there.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Good points all around. All right. Well, I think it's a good place for us to wrap up today, and we'll catch everyone again next week.
Excellent topics.
Yeah, great job, guys. I'm so glad. Yeah, and shout out Natasha. Yeah.
If we insert her name a bunch of different times, then she won't be able to cut it out.
So
that's true. Just keep whispering it.
Before we get off, in what order do the host names go? Are we doing alphabetical order, or can we move you down to the bottom, Sarah?
Well, if we were doing alphabetical, Shia would be last.
Done.
However, if we're sorting by last name, you would be last, Mike.
All right, so let this meet in the middle. We'll do it oldest to youngest.
Okay, fine. I'm last. You know what?
Mike, it's unbelievable. We just made it to being co-hosts after how many weeks, and you're already asking for.
Well, I'm trying to see how I can get ownership of Spotify now. So,
look, in due time, you will have your place. Okay.
Perfect.
Trust me.
So in like a week, got it.
One can hope. All right.
All right. Last thing to say, this is going to be posted way after the game, but go Pistons.
Go Pistons.
Go Pistons.
Even though Sarah's from Cleveland.
I know. Don't tell my Cleveland people. I know. Bye.
Bye.